AI tools like ChatGPT have made content creation faster, easier, and cheaper than ever before. And that means everyone can create content, good, bad, or otherwise. And they are. The result? A tidal wave of blog posts, social media captions, emails, and ads that are all starting to sound the same. I call this the cookie cutter effect, and it's bad news for brands. The last thing you want is for your marketing content to blend in with everyone else's. AI tools like ChatGPT need a compass. AI can mimic language very well, but your unique voice and perspective can't be replicated. Your brand gives AI its direction with guidelines on unique voice, messaging pillars, style and tone. It's like giving AI a compass. Without your input, your direction, your values, your tone, it will produce something average, not memorable or compelling or engaging or persuasive. All the things marketing campaigns need in order to be successful, right? Our goal here is consistency, but even more important, the Brand Compass helps AI better understand your brand personality, which helps reduce that hated generic AI content we see. AI works better with a brand framework. In fact, AI loves structure. It thrives on direction, context, and constraints. When you train ChatGPT with brand style guidelines, tone of voice examples, customer personas, the content it generates will sound much more aligned with your brand instead of robotic or generic. Building a brand compass. Think of this as your one-page guide to consistent branding. It's a quick reference page that defines your mission, your core values, your audience, and your brand personality. And here's the best part. Once you've built your brand compass, you can share it with ChatGPT or any AI tool. That way, every piece of written content or visual project generated by AI will feel more authentic, like your brand, instead of generic. By the way, I attached a guide in the project description area that you can download and use to help create your brand compass. It also includes an example that you can reference so you can see what a finished guide looks like. So how do you build your own brand compass? It starts with defining your brand foundation, which consists of 4 key elements: your brand mission, core values, key customers, and brand personality. Let's start with your brand mission. Think of the brand mission as the North Star of your brand. You might also call it your brand purpose. It describes why your brand exists at its core, from the customer's point of view, the value you bring to your audience. Students often ask me, what's the difference between a brand mission and a brand statement? Great question. A mission statement is usually a more structured, detailed version of what the company does, how it does it, often with an emphasis more on its business strategy, where the brand mission shares the company's purpose in a more emotional and relatable way. It's often shorter and more inspiring. Here's an example of IKEA's brand mission: to create a better everyday life for many people. In comparison to the mission statement, which says, offer a wide range of well-designed functional home furnishing products at prices so low that as many people as possible will be able to afford them. You can see it is much longer and more specific. In fact, IKEA calls it the business idea, but it's the mission statement. Companies don't always label it as a mission statement. Okay, the next element of your brand foundation are your core values. What principles guide your brand specifically? Let's go back to the IKEA example. Some of their core values include togetherness, renewing and improving, being different with a meaning, simplicity, give and take responsibility, and they describe each of these on their website if you want to check it out to see an example of core values being applied to a real brand. So the core values should be simple and action-oriented in support of the brand mission. Next is your target audience. As I mentioned earlier, giving a detailed description of your target audience is super important to help AI tools like ChatGPT generate better results. So for this section, you can refer back to the prompt I gave you earlier to help you create a customer persona. So this will go beyond demographics and also list psychographics. What are psychographics? It's a little reminder. These are your customers' interests, their hobbies, their lifestyle, values, their beliefs. Here's a side-by-side comparison. For example, the demographics listed on the left include income, such as earning $200,000 per year, female, 36 years old, medical professional. These are demographics. Whereas the psychographics are on the right, and they show that she is an NBA fan. She's a good saver. She enjoys island vacations, is a dog lover, and family is important. See the difference? So the last part of your brand foundation is your brand personality. And this is always fun. If your brand were a person, how would you describe its tone and style? Think of your favorite brand. Well, let's take Nike, for example. If Nike were a person, how might we describe its personality? Bold and confident, because it speaks with authority and inspires action. How about motivational? It's always pushing you to believe in yourself and achieve more. Energetic and dynamic, so it's fast-moving, exciting, forward-thinking. So personality drives tone. So Nike doesn't sound corporate or cautious. It sounds like a coach, like a cheerleader, like a teammate, all rolled into one. And it's memorable because it feels human and authentic. So defining this helps AI tools like ChatGPT better understand your brand, and as a result, more likely to create content that feels consistent and authentic. After you create the foundation for your brand compass, the next step is to create your messaging anchors. This includes 3 parts: your voice and tone, style guidelines, and key phrases or themes. So let's start with voice and tone. Here you'll write 3 example sentences that clearly reflect your brand's tone. The goal here is for ChatGPT to train its tone of voice on these examples for your projects. So think of these sentences like test driving your brand's personality. If you submitted these phrases to ChatGPT, could it clearly mimic your brand voice? The easiest way to know is to test it out and refine it until you're happy with the result. Then it becomes part of the brand compass moving forward. Let's look at an example phrase for a wellness coach. It could be, we believe self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. You don't have to do everything all at once. Small steps create lasting change. So you can see how the brand sounds nurturing, encouraging, and reassuring, all which reflect its caring personality. Next are your style guidelines. This is where you can guide AI with simple do's and don'ts for your brand. Let's go back to the IKEA example. A style guide for IKEA might look something like this. Use plain, everyday language that's easy to understand. Focus on affordability and accessibility. Highlight functionality as much as style. Be warm and playful where appropriate. IKEA doesn't take itself too seriously. Do these guidelines feel like the IKEA you know? Definitely. Now, what should be avoided with the IKEA brand? Avoid overly technical or design snob language. I love that. Keeping with the simplicity of the brand. Don't use jargon or complex terminology. Don't position the brand as luxury or exclusive. IKEA is for the many, not the few. So notice how IKEA's guidelines aren't just about what to say, but how to say it. They use friendly language, they focus on real-life solutions, and they avoid anything that feels elite. And that's what keeps their global brand voice consistent, whether it's a catalog, an Instagram post, or in-store signage. Key phrases or themes. Here you'll write 3 to 5 phrases, words, or taglines that align with your brand identity. Going back to IKEA, some of the key phrases could be for the many, not the few. Create a better everyday life. Design that's affordable, functional, and stylish. These phrases reinforce IKEA's accessibility and everyday usefulness. Okay, moving on to step 3. This is where you'll organize your brand elements into that final brand compass document. Feel free to use the template and guide I provided in the project description. You can also take a look at the example I provided at the end of the guide to give you some ideas for writing the brand foundation and messaging anchors. And after that, finally, when your brand compass is complete, it's time to test it out with ChatGPT or your favorite AI tool. Now, the great thing about completing this project is you'll have a brand compass that you can use over and over again with any AI tool to make your brand voice more consistent, more authentic, and memorable. Taking time up front to create this guide will save you a ton of time in the long run with less editing and better results. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for that next video.